Android Studio. Create XML layout for Android. Start the project. Check out the tip calculator on Google. In this pathway, you'll build a simplified Android tip calculator app. By the end of this code lab, your tip calculator app will look like this. First, create a new Kotlin project in Android Studio using the empty activity template. Name the app Tip Time. Read and understand XML. XML stands for Extensible Markup Language, which is a way of describing data using text-based document. Because XML is extensible and very flexible, it can be used to achieve many different goals, including defining the interface layout of an Android application. An Android app's interface is built as a contained hierarchy of components, that is widgets, and screen layouts for those components. You can describe the view hierarchy of interface elements on the screen. For example, constraint layout, parent, can contain buttons, text views, image views or other views, children. After simplification, the XML for the above interface element might look like this. A real example. 1. Open activity_main.xml, that is REST layout activity_main.xml. 2. In the upper right corner of the layout editor, find the code, split and design views. Select the code view. 3. Note the indentation. Android Studio does this automatically to display a hierarchy of elements. The text view is indented because it is contained in a constraint layout. 4. Note the color coding, some are blue, some are green, etc. Similar parts of the file are drawn in the same color to help you match them up. XML tags, elements and attributes. Here's a simplified version of the text view element so you can see some important parts. The line of code with less than text view is the beginning of the tag. And the line of code with / greater than is the end of the tag. The line of code with Android :text equals hello world is an attribute of the tag. It represents the text that will be displayed by the text view. These 3 lines of code are a common shorthand known as empty element tag. This is the same as if you would write code with separate opening and closing tags as follows. Constraint layout elements are written with separate opening and closing tags, because it needs to be able to hold other elements inside. If you want to add another view as a child of constraint layout, for example button below text view, then it can be placed after the text view tag / greater than and before the closing tag of the constraint layout, like this. More about XML for layout. 1. Looking at the markup for constraint layout, you'll notice that it says this, instead of just showing constraint layout like text view. This is because constraint layout belongs to Android Jetpack, the latter containing codebases that provide additional functionality on the Android core platform. 2. You may have noticed lines starting with XMLNS, followed by Android, App and Tools. XMLNS represents an XML namespace, and each line of code defines a schema, or vocabulary of attributes associated with those words. 3. You can annotate XML the same way you annotate Kotlin code. Note the first line of the file means that the file is an XML file, but not every XML file contains this line of code.